We welcome Professor Christian Strenger, university professor in Leipzig and an expert on good corporate governance. He's one of the best-known shareholder representatives in Germany, and his critical, uncomfortable questions regularly cause the supervisory boards to sweat at annual general meetings. He says, corporate governance is the key prerequisite for a first-class and functioning compliance system. With advice from proven experts and full attention by management and supervisory boards for state-of-the-art compliance, companies can master their business for long-term sustainability.
Thank you to EQS and particularly Achim Weig for inviting an old warrior, a seasoned warrior for good governance, for better governance. And I'm very happy to share some insights with so many participants, 5,000. That looks like a Volkswagen annual meeting that now take place, unfortunately, only in the video manner, but we will hopefully return there. I have a pretty long list of individual points to sort of address, but I will perhaps concentrate in the interest of time on the more interesting ones from my point of view. So, will more regulation lead to better compliance? The easy and the blunt answer is no, because even more regulation leads to more opaqueness, more uneasiness, and more resistance by people who are subjected to even more regulation. It is also politically dangerous because you see, with the Brexit example, people in the UK just didn't want to do with more regulation coming from Brussels. And that's why we now have this departure, which is very sad and not good for the whole of Europe. We also have, as reason, cost of more prescriptive regulation will stifle the entrepreneurial spirit. Particularly small and medium-sized enterprises, family companies, they suffer from regulation which they hardly can do with. They have too many other things to do and can't even afford a very difficult situation stemming from over-regulation. Then, most recently, we have this so-called corporate punishment law, which in German reads much sort of softer, Verbandssanktionengesetz. That sounds pretty innocent. The problem there is that the corporate punishment law just wants to punish entities, anonymous entities, corporations, not the individuals who really are the culprits of all these misdeeds. And that's exactly the wrong point, because if you see who did all these things in Siemens, in Volkswagen, in Wirecard, it was the individuals where change is necessary, change in the head, how people sort of react. These were the greedy guys who wanted more pay, more promotion, more friendly acceptance by the general public. And that went wrong, and that's why this corporate punishment law is not the ideal approach. It has a good element, obviously, that if you have, as a company, a better compliance system, your punishment will be lower. So it's a very good thing also for EQS and other advisors, but it has to address, and we hope that before the law becomes final, that really the individuals are much more in the focus of the law. Then over to many reasons that we have for no change. We have no let-up in serious company failures. Wirecard was just the example. But there are plenty others that we do not detect, that may be smaller companies, but still they hurt so many stakeholders, including the employees, including the owners, the families, and so on. So what you also see is that deficient crisis management intensifies the disruption and the external attention. This disruption comes particularly in such difficult times as we have today with the corona crisis. So altogether, this is a point that we have to consider much stronger. We also have political pressures for new regulation, particularly before important elections. Next year, we will have Bundestagswahlen, yeah? And you can bet that there will be efforts by the politicians who want to be elected, that they will find new ways of regulation to show the voters how big they care for things that may be too much regulation. So altogether, I think we have many reasons that there will be no change, no let-up in regulation. So altogether, what are the key requirements for satisfactory dealing with existing and new regulation? Obviously, a first-class governance system. That's indispensable. Clear distribution and adherence to separation of duties. Very often you find that supervisory boards want to do management things, or the long-time successful CEO starts controlling the company and the supervisory board has no chance. So no muddling. That's, I think, the important point. Everyone has to fulfill its role. Then, obviously, good compliance is primarily a management task, but regular control by the supervisory board and a direct line of relationship to the audit committee chair are also vital. So checks and balances between managers and controllers are the important thing. Intensive cooperation between the compliance, the risk management, and the internal audit departments. Yes, that is something that is obviously necessary, but very often egos prevail, and then you have the problem, the interaction was not good enough. Then regular checkup of all the systems. Even if you believe your system is first class and you have hired the right advisors, have regular checkups of all your compliance system. That obviously includes whistleblowing and forensic pursuit of weak areas. If you detect that there is a possible deficit, then have a forensic audit in order to go forward. This was exactly what was lacking in the Wirecard debacle. Personal liability of the leaders of the enterprise must be the first order for governmental and political compliance frameworks. Very clearly, personal liability, as I mentioned in this new law, the corporate punishment law, this is what you have to attack. And then no exceptions for personal failure, for personal misdemeanor. If you do it once, the whole firm, the whole company, the whole set of employees will take note and say, okay, if it doesn't apply to me, if it doesn't apply to the poor fellow who made all the mistakes, then I can go perhaps just the same. So again, no exceptions there. And very clearly use all the systems that you can get, that this company has and many others will have in artificial intelligence, algorithms, predictive analytics, and so on. But, and that's my firm belief, the human factor will still have to be first class, will have to prevail. It will remain imperative for long-term sustainability of companies and to be really up to snuff for compliance. The tone from the top as key element for survival in compliance, but also survival of the company, is what makes it all. And as Achim Weik has already told you, the the right ethical setup, the right ethical frame of mind, they will set the tone for the future of the company, and we all hope that this works for you. Thank you for listening, and I'm happy to now answer some questions.
Professor Strenger, thank you so much for your keynote speech on good corporate governance. I'm curious because you started your career in investment banking and asset management. So how did you get into corporate governance?
Oh, it was quite easy because when I was asked to be the CEO of DWS Investment, the largest German and a big European fund manager, I said we have to make it much clearer to our clients that we mind their business and go after the rotten apples that we may have and hopefully don't have in our portfolios. So we went after companies that were the blue chip ones at the time, but they proved to be substandard in terms of transparency, in terms of auditing and other difficult fields, and they have disappeared since a long time.
Now, I think you mentioned that you don't think that the recently proposed corporate punishment law is suitable to improve compliance in Germany. Why do you say that?
I think it has the wrong address point. It should be the individuals, the ones who really make all the efforts to get better salaries, to be promoted. And that should be stopped in the tracks right away. So there must be redress, at least in the law, to the individual. Yeah? Just taking more money from an anonymous entity, the company will not help because in the end, it's the individual that needs to change in the top of the mind.
So do you see settlements as a way for companies to avoid this criminal prosecution?
Well, settlements we've seen, but whether they are the appropriate way of getting done, you've seen it again in Volkswagen, where 9 million were paid by the shareholders, by the company, in order to get two key persons off the court. And I think this isn't the ideal solution. You really have to make these culprits feel that they have done something wrong, and they must be aware before they are starting to do it.
Can we expect any changes in this criminal prosecution?
We try very hard, and there have been recently some interesting changes asked by the Bundesrat, which is the higher piece of the legislative. So maybe we still can make some progress, because what is good about the new law is that compliance efforts can be rewarded. How the law is very sort of unclear so far.
Okay. You also mentioned that you think new analytical methods for compliance fulfillment can't replace the human control function. Why do you say that?
I think in the end, it's still the human being that needs to press the button or say yes or no to every of these efforts. Fortunately, we have all these new ways of dealing with it, with the cloud helping the compliance effort in a big way. But going for the right system, controlling, are we really looking after the right items in our company? It's a very sort of focused affair. And that needs people who are good enough to also go behind it and have the stature to say no to managers who are not performing their duties.
Okay, we're still dealing with the aftermath of the Wirecard fraud scandal, and then there's still the Volkswagen diesel scandal that we're dealing with, and there was the Siemens bribery scandal. Do you think that German companies are particularly susceptible to misconduct?
I think, fortunately, these are very isolated and very sad cases that need to be the example for doing it different. But I'm still optimistic that German companies as a whole are doing their duties pretty well. And one sort of example for it is 60% of the German DAX 30 companies are owned by international investors. And they wouldn't be there if things were so bad in this country. This is a country that has great entrepreneurs and, as a rule, very good controls. But some rotten apples sort of cloud the picture.
Okay. Well, we'll be talking about the Wirecard scandal a lot today. And in an interview with the Handelsblatt last year, you said that Wirecard needed to improve its compliance competence. Well done for that. But you also stated that the Deutsche Börse Group doesn't check the corporate governance rules of new DAX companies. Has anything changed there?
Yes, just this Monday we read that the Deutsche Börse wants to change the rules for the index companies. And that is badly necessary because so far it was only market value and turnover in the shares, and that was just too little. We need better governance in many ways, i.e. we need an audit committee. We need other things. We need reporting in a good time, 90 days after the fiscal year has ended, 45 days after the interim report date has come forward, and other things, quality aspects. Also very interesting matters of environmental and social responsibility, which we will see how it will turn out. Not easy to sort of get to, but progress is underway.
Okay. Are regulators in Germany, do you think, equipped to deal with companies like Wirecard?
I think regulators set the scene. It's more the supervisory offices and similar control devices that really have to go after it. And there one can only wish that they would be sharper in pursuing incidents and signs of wrongdoing. That was exactly the point in Wirecard. There were efforts, you will hear from the FT journalist later. Yeah, there were many signs where one could have gone deeper, and that was missing. Yeah? And this was sort of the high-tech darling company, the next SAP of Germany. And so it was sort of, as I call it, multiples Organversagen, multiple organ failure. Everybody had a chance, but nobody really sort of went into it.
Okay, but one of the criticisms was that BaFin, the financial regulator, doesn't have the power to bring criminal charges. How do you see that?
I think they have pretty strong ways of dealing with such cases. It's a pretty heavy load what they have to do, but okay, loud and clear. They didn't, just as an example, when the Wirecard accounts didn't appear 90 or 120 days in time, nothing was done. And this is the opportunity. Or the many kinds of letters they got. Nobody really sort of dug into the deep of the problem.
Okay, so enforcement is a weak point.
Yeah, enforcement needs to get stronger. And that needs always people who are really intelligent enough to go behind or into intelligent fraud. That was Wirecard, a fantastic film story to come.
So do you think that German businesses will recover their reputation as a financial center and will regulators be trusted again?
I think our setting is pretty good. We have the few unfortunate cases. Regulators will learn from it. They must learn from it. They will learn from it. And we will see hopefully less of such cases. But das Fleisch ist schwach.
The flesh is weak.
The flesh is weak, and therefore we will never be perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much for your keynote speech, Professor Strenger. I've really enjoyed the interview as well.
Great pleasure to be here today.
Okay. Thank you.